Welcome back to Quick Bits, your Monday dive into all things going on in the law. And this used to break down all of the things I had covered in the week so you can stay in the loop. And that is still true, but I am adding in stories that I haven't had a chance to cover on live because there is so much going on. Two of the things we're talking about today popped off on Friday, September 5th. That includes continued problems with Proctor in Massachusetts, connected to the Karen Read case and other high-profile investigations in Massachusetts. And the court is having none of Kari Morrissey. I broke down her latest motion on Thursday, but the court responded on Friday, and we haven't had a chance to talk about that yet. So it's going to be a busy Quick Bits. Buckle up. Are they even quick anymore, Emily? Yeah, quicker than a live stream. That's where we're at. Let's get into it. I'm legal analyst Emily D. Baker. This is the Quick Bits, where I break down just the main points of the pop culture and entertainment cases I'm currently covering on YouTube and the Emily Show podcast. Let's get into it. First, talking about Massachusetts on the podcast, The Emily Show, which is available on the Emily D. Baker YouTube channel and on your favorite audio feed. Also, if you just are confused between the two channels, the Lawnerd app can make sure that you get all of the content that you're looking for, whether it's the Quick Bits episode, the Quick Bits clips that are cut down from the live streams, the podcast, the live streams, the trial coverage, all of it at lawnerdapp.com. Free for you, fun for me, and I've told you enough of where to go to stay in the loop with all the content. But on the podcast on Wednesday, I broke down the Sandra Birchmore case out of Massachusetts. I did not get into every detail of that case. It is an incredibly difficult case to go through because it is so horrific in the way that Sandra Birchmore was treated, the way that her death was initially ruled self-harm and not a homicide, and then the feds had to take over the investigation from state police in Massachusetts, and they brought charges. One of the questions I saw quite a lot in the comments on that episode was, why was there only one charge for Sandra Birchmore when she was pregnant at the time that she was murdered? And it's because the feds charged a murder of a witness or victim, and that charge would only apply to Birchmore. That does not mean that Norfolk County district attorneys can't bring state-level charges for murder separately. There are other charges they can bring as well. Will they do that? I do not know. But there are other charges available, but those would be the state level charges, not the federal level charges. These charges that we're seeing and the arrest that we saw of former Officer Farwell is from the federal investigation. And we know that there's also a federal investigation into the Karen Read case. I wonder what more will be unturned there, and if we will see charges there as well. The Birchmore murder happened a year before the Karen Read case and the death of John O'Keefe, so we will see what happens there. But more news out of Massachusetts, because it seems that Massachusetts is just going to keep us busy. First, and I think this is very good news, the governor of Massachusetts, Governor Healey, has appointed a new head of Massachusetts State Police from not only outside of state police, but outside the state of Massachusetts, and brought in Lieutenant Colonel Jeffrey Noble from New Jersey. I think the Massachusetts State Police is in the middle of a crisis. It wouldn't surprise me if they end up under a consent decree. That means the federal government overseeing what is going on in their department. Bringing someone in from the outside can go a long way to oversee what is going on with state police. And when I broke down the Birchmore case, one of the things I pointed out was that with regard to state police, the investigation into Karen Read has some overlapping officers, including Officer Guarino, who did the cell phone extraction in the Birchmore case and in the Karen Read case. The cell phone extraction somehow missed over 30,000 highly relevant and damning to the defendant text messages in the Birchmore case. So when he gets up to testify in the inevitable retrial, it seems, of Karen Read in January, how's that cross-examination going to go with Alan Jackson? So isn't it true that in another homicide investigation, you missed 30,000 text messages that were found in a federal cell phone extraction? Yes. So how can this jury trust the extractions in this case that you didn't miss things? Isn't it true that in this case you missed? And then Alan Jackson is going to list the Google searches, deleted phone calls, missed calls, and the rest of it, because it plays very squarely into the defense narrative that this investigation was not done well. And the rest of the defense narrative on that is that this is a cover-up. And we heard quite a lot of that from Alan Jackson's interview on 2020 when Karen Read was also interviewed on Friday. What a wild turn of events to have a 2020 special when this case is pending retrial. We've got to talk about it. On Friday, ABC in 2020 dropped an interview with Karen Read. Well, they dropped a 2020 special regarding the Karen Read trial. They noted that the trial was going to be retried in 2025. They didn't note specifically that would be January, but we know it is. They had an interview with Karen Read that was so edited amongst commentary, it was hard to get a sense for how she was talking about this case in succession. I would have liked to have seen more of her interview in order and less edited clips. It was like question, answer, commentary, question, answer, commentary. Her interview was interesting. She continues to vehemently deny that she ever hit John O'Keefe. She talked about how hard it was for her to be arrested, what it was like picking out a wardrobe for trial, and how difficult and stressful this has been for her. But I can also see from the way that she sat and spoke in her interview why she might not have testified in the case. It will be up to you to determine after watching that interview if you think her testimony would help her or hurt her if she ultimately decides to testify when the retrial comes around in January, because that's a choice that will be made fresh with the new trial. We also saw an interview from Alan Jackson where he said he has never been more confident in any case in his career, which I found to be a bold and somewhat shocking statement from Alan Jackson, who's had a very long career with some very high-profile cases, but he clearly believes very much in his client. I wonder if we will see the Commonwealth complaining about these interviews because they are now pre-trial publicity. But I also wonder, because it seems that this was all recorded and these interviews were recorded before the trial began, I just have to wonder if the defense thought on this was, and they didn't interview Unetti, just Alan Jackson, but if the thought was that this interview will be her way to tell her side of a story after an acquittal, or her way to tell her side of a story about how the jury got it wrong if she is convicted. But it sits kind of weird having this released when there was a hung jury and we are waiting on a retrial. I would love to hear your thoughts about that in the comments. And we had a very thorough discussion about that in the app as I was kind of live threading my thoughts as I was watching that on 2020. And I will probably dive into her statements more on the full podcast this week. But that's not the end of new news coming out of Massachusetts. We have to talk about Trooper Michael Proctor. First of all, ABC did play clips of Michael Proctor's testimony on 2020 and bleeped out the see you next Tuesday word, which doesn't surprise me. But it was funny. The clip that they chose was the clip where he was reading the text messages, calling Karen Read a whack job, C-U-N-T. And then when he testified, he read the letters of the word into the record, and Alan Jackson objected. And they played Judge Cannoni looking at Proctor saying, these are your words, then say it. And then him saying, but the way they bleeped it, as I just did, because there's one word that YouTube hates more than all others. But as they played it both times, they bleeped it. So if you didn't watch the trial, you have no idea what word he's actually dropping. So it was very interesting to see that included, but then all bleeped so that if you don't know what was said, you don't know what was said. But talking about Michael Proctor, the Commonwealth filed motions that I'm going to go through the entire motion on Wednesday, but filed motions to block defense attorneys from getting the full extraction of Trooper Proctor's work phone. In the Karen Read case, his personal cell phone was turned over, but now they are trying to get to his work phone. What I don't like about this is that it seems that those investigating Trooper Proctor's work phone is the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. I would like to see an outside agency handling this. I think it would play better at a retrial. I think having the same agency that oversaw Trooper Proctor's work when he was in the field, and some of them were in those text message threads, overseeing the extraction of his work phone and then deciding what can and cannot be turned over, is not going to play well in front of a jury, because the prosecution is asking to keep some of the information out because it's a work phone and there might be information on ongoing investigations. But I think that should go to a separate investigator or a taint attorney to look and see what is relevant to ongoing investigations and what needs to be turned over. Those filings were made in 3 high-profile cases: the Karen Reed case, the Brian Walsh case, and the Ingolf Turek. I think I pronounced that properly. I probably didn't. You'll let me know in the comments. 3 high-profile cases out of Massachusetts, 3 dealing with the Norfolk DA's office. In all 3 cases where Trooper Proctor is inextricably linked, the prosecutors said that they are trying to determine, and this is in their filing, what, if any, information on Trooper Proctor's work phone or cloud account is discoverable in this or other cases. I don't know if letting the Norfolk DA's office determine that is going to instill confidence in the defense attorneys, but I will look at the entirety of those filings in depth on Wednesday. But what we do know is if prosecutors go forward with this retrial, not only will there be questions and potentially issues with the officers connected to the investigation in the Sandra Birchmore case, but we know that there is now another entire cell phone from Michael Proctor that he's going to be cross-examined about. I wonder, A, if the feds already have this work phone and that's why Norfolk DAs are doing this now, and B, what else is going to be unearthed on this work phone. And speaking of the audacity of it all, we need to go to New Mexico. Special prosecutor in the Alec Baldwin and Hannah Gutierrez cases regarding the shooting death of Helena Hutchins on the movie set of Rust in New Mexico is just not stopping. Choices have been made, and the choices are wild. In the chat on Thursday's episode, where I broke down the 52-page motion of Kari Morrissey wilding out in the Baldwin case, the chat asked, is this a motion or a meltdown? And I'm like, this needs to be a Fall Out Boy song, because yeah, it might be a meltdown. It was wild. I also talked about the fact that Hannah Gutierrez took a plea deal in her other weapon case where she took a gun into a bar. You can't have a gun in an establishment that sells liquor. She pled to that case. She will be on formal probation for it when she is released from prison. But in the Baldwin case, Kari Morrissey filed a motion to reconsider the court's dismissal with prejudice of Alec Baldwin's case. The court in Baldwin's case, in a stunning turn of events on day 3 of trial, dismissed his case with prejudice as a sanction for discovery violations that violated Brady and the prosecution's obligation. In that 52 pages, Kari Morrissey went on at length trying to relitigate the facts of everything that happened. We learned new information about her perception of what happened. We heard her say things like, bullets don't kill people. Yes, that's in the motion. She also said that the statements by CST Popple, the crime scene technician who said that the bullets that were recovered from Troy Teske by Santa Fe sheriffs on the last day of Hannah Gutierrez's trial, do not match any of the bullets recovered from the Rust set. We know after the court examined the evidence that that was wrong. Kari Morrissey said that that was not false testimony. It was just inaccurate testimony. 52 pages. And I'm sure at this point you're asking, but Emily, that was dismissed with prejudice. What law allows the court to reconsider a dismissal with prejudice? Great question. Wish I could tell you. Kari Morrissey cites 0 case law or statute that allows a court to revive a criminal case after jeopardy attached, after it's dismissed with prejudice. In this case, the court did not declare a mistrial, allowing the prosecution to retry the case. The court dismissed it, so it is done. So how the court can even consider this motion Kari Morrissey was silent on, but I can imagine that Spyro is going to be spitting fire in his reply to this because it is such an outrageous motion. But he's going to have to wait a minute to do that, because in filing that 52-page motion, Kari Morrissey asked the court to allow her to exceed the page limits. And in that motion for extension of page limits on the state's motion to reconsider, Kari Morrissey said the defendant was granted leave of court to file her motion for new trial in excess of the page limits, and the state requests the same for its response. That's copy and pasted from Hannah's case. That doesn't even go to the motion to reconsider the dismissal with prejudice. First of all, Baldwin, he. Second of all, we're not dealing with a motion for new trial here. So this is cut and pasted badly from the Hannah Gutierrez motion. And wildly enough, that continues. She goes on to say, under local rules, motions cannot exceed 10 pages. She said the motion is currently 34, and then in parentheses, it said 54 pages long with header, conclusion, and certificate of service. So even in the body, she changed the numerical 54, but not the spelled out 34, which should be 54. She said attorneys for defendant were contacted via email, but as of the filing of this motion, they have not responded. The court did not grant her leave to file the motion with the extended page limits. And 54 is a wild amount of pages. None of it was citing law. It was 52 pages of foot stomping and hand wringing. So on Friday, Judge Sommer responded, and ooh, is she mad? Support for today's episode comes from Honeylove. Not only are they supporting the Quick Bits, but they are supporting the girls. Honeylove has revolutionized the wireless bra game, so you are not racing home to rip your bra off and throw it onto the floor. We've been there. Honeylove eliminates the need for uncomfortable wires and unnecessarily bulky bras. They are lightweight and comfortable without sacrificing support, and they're made from soft and breathable fabric, so you are not tugging at the back of your bra all day long. Don't forget to check out Honeylove's best-selling crossover bra. It is comfortable, it is lightweight, and it doesn't make your back bulge around the bra straps because you can find the fit that's right for you. All of us want to feel snatched, more snatched than Kari Morrissey's 52-page motion that we are talking about in this episode. So if you are ready for the support you deserve, treat yourself to one of the best bras on the market with Honeylove. We've got 20% off for you if you head to honeylove.com/lawnerd. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off at honeylove.com/lawnerd. Elevate your comfort, elevate your style with bras that empower your lifestyle. And if they ask, and don't forget to tell them you were sent from the Quick Bits. Let's get back to today's episode. Judge Sommer is pissed. Order denying state's motion for extension of page limits to state's motion to reconsider dismissal with prejudice. The court rules on the filed pleading without hearing. On August 30th, the state filed a 52-page state's motion to reconsider with prejudice. The state additionally filed 387 pages of exhibits for consideration with its motion. The state did not obtain advance leave of court to file its motion well in excess of page limits. Local Rule 305 requires entry of an order of the court when a party seeks to file a brief in excess of 10 pages. And then the court cites the law and the scheduling order, saying the parties shall follow all local motion practice rules, including rules on page limitations and package procedures set forth. The court then goes on to say, given the procedural posture of the case, e.g., it's over, the court must enforce the local rule to regulate the court's docket and promote judicial efficiency. The court then cites case law that talks about deterring frivolous filings and case law that says when this court has approved the additional pages, they are almost invariably unpersuasive. A winning argument can fit within the limits of the rule. The court goes on to say, quote, The court finds that the state's motion for extension of page limits to state's motion to reconsider dismissal with prejudice is not well taken and should be denied. So Kari Morrissey is going to have to file that motion again and fit it into 10 pages before Spiro and Baldwin even have to respond. So has the court already smacked down Kari Morrissey's motion? Yes. The court didn't say it can't be filed. The court said it can't be 52 pages of relitigating the facts of this case. But that motion is just the gift that keeps on giving content-wise. I'm sure Baldwin's attorneys lost their minds over it, and I would have loved to been a fly on the wall when Judge Sommer and her research attorney had a conversation about that motion. But right now, Judge Sommer's ruling on the page extension is denied. And with that, we've got a lot of court to come next week as we get ready for the Donna Adelson trial later in September. There is an ongoing trial out of Nevada that I'm going to be taking a look at next week. And of course, I will be breaking down everything going on with Trooper Proctor in Massachusetts on Wednesday. So with that, thank you for being here. Thank you for enjoying the quick bits, and I will see you on stream. For deep dives into the stories that I covered here, you can find them on my YouTube channel at The Emily D. Baker and The Emily Show podcast. I stream every Tuesday and Thursday. The podcast goes live on Wednesdays. And if you want to stay in the loop with everything I'm doing, receive the fastest notifications out there, and get more Law Nerd community, join me at lawnerdapp.com, our free app for iOS and Android.